Would it be fair to say we have a bit of a cultural obsession with origin stories? There's something interesting about that, the need to know why behind every character's motivations, every scar, every object. Sometimes I think these backstories add layers to the familiar. Other times they remove the mystery that made beloved characters compelling in the first place. Mufasa the Lion King, the latest live-action Disney prequel directed by Barry Jenkins of 2016's Oscar-winning Moonlight fame, walks this tightrope with mixed results. So anyway, the story. Mufasa tells the story of, well, Mufasa, Simba's ill-fated father from 1994's beloved The Lion King film. We see Mufasa, voiced by Aaron Pierre, separated from his pride during a flood and rescued by a royal cub named Taka. I'm not giving much away here by telling you that's Scar from the 94 movie, voiced by Kelvin Harrison Jr. Mufasa settles into his new pride, but that peaceful life is soon interrupted when a vengeful group of white lions, the Outsiders, pretty bluntly named, led by Kiros, voiced by Mad Mikkelsen, bring chaos into their lives. Forced to leave, Mufasa and Taka meet Sarabi, Simba's mother from the first film, voiced by Tiffany Boone, and a young Rafiki, voiced by Kasigo Ladiga, who guides them towards the mystical land of Milele. As Mufasa and Sarabi grow closer, Taka's jealousy starts to cause trouble, leading to a dramatic showdown. Will Mufasa rise to become the king he's destined to be, and can the bond between him and Taka withstand the betrayals? Okay, let's start with what works on this one. The technical achievement here is undeniable. The animation is clean and crisp. Photorealistic landscapes stretch out in all their glory, and the lighting effects are exceptional. Director Barry Jenkins and his team craft some scenes that could easily be mistaken for nature documentaries. The way the camera captures the vastness of Africa, particularly during sunrises and sunsets, demonstrates why Jenkins was the perfect man for this job, even if he initially turned it down. The voice cast delivers solid performances, with Mads Mikkelsen standing out as a highlight. His gravelly voice brings tension to every scene he's in, though I can't help but wish he had a bit more screen time. The rest of the cast proves capable, though they sometimes struggle to bring emotion to their roles due to the constraints of a realistic animation style. It is this animation style, no matter how impressive it is on the surface, that also leads to one of Mufasa's major weaknesses. In going after ultra-realism, the film sacrifices one of animation's greatest strengths, expressive character faces. We're just not tuned to read too much expression in a lion's smile, and it makes it harder than it should be to connect emotionally with the characters. It becomes particularly egregious during musical numbers, where the disconnect between the realism and the animals bursting into another soulful R&B tune creates an uncanny valley effect that's hard to overcome. The pacing in Mufasa is another mixed bag. The film opens fairly strong with some kinetic action sequences, but struggles to find its rhythm in the middle like a lot of modern films. There's a sense that the story is merely marking time between set pieces, waiting for the inevitable climax anyone who's seen the 94 film knows is coming. This is probably the biggest challenge of prequels. When the audience knows the destination, the journey needs to be exceptional. Speaking of the journey, the film's narrative structure feels a little odd too. Despite being marketed as Mufasa's story, and me summarising it as such earlier, it's actually Scar's tragedy we watch unfold. This switch in focus could have been interesting, but Mufasa seems hesitant to fully commit to it. It's particularly noticeable in how the film handles Mufasa's character arc, or rather lack of it. He arrives nearly fully formed, wise and brave and full of heart from the start, leaving little room for character development. I mentioned the music earlier, and it wouldn't be a review of a Disney film without a closer look. While clearly attempting to capture the magic of the original Lion King, the songs in Mufasa weave in far less organically with the story. They often bring the narrative to a halt rather than advancing it, and most are nowhere near as catchy as their predecessors. All of this said, the film does have moments that hit. Scar's tragic descent into villainy is handled with nuance, and the movie takes its time establishing the relationship between the two brothers. You feel real empathy watching Scar's initial lack of confidence and low self-esteem, knowing where his character ends up. Mufasa's handling of this is perhaps its strongest element, dramatising how small moments and perceived slights can build to lasting resentment. We've all been there. Timon and Pumbaa are used again for comic relief, but it all feels a bit forced. Rather than naturally integrating humour into the main story, Mufasa uses the big two as a crutch, crowbarring them in through a narrator framework, Rafiki telling Mufasa and Scar's history as a campfire story, that feels unnecessary. It's as if Jenkins didn't trust the central story to hold the audience's attention, and it speaks to a larger issue with modern prequels. We don't always have to include familiar elements if they don't serve the story. There's a knock-on effect of this too. Thematically, Mufasa is actually quite dense, exploring outsiderdom and the pressure of maintaining appearances. But this stuff often gets lost in the movie's desire to explain every detail of the original film. Do we really need to know how Scar got his scar? Does that knowledge enhance his character? Like a lot of prequels, Mufasa's obsession with explaining every detail sometimes comes at a storytelling cost. So, for all of its occasional strong moments, Mufasa the Lion King ultimately feels like a story that didn't need to be told. It's competent, sometimes pretty, but not in the least bit surprising. Maybe some stories are better left mysterious, some questions better left unanswered. After all, there's something to be said for letting our imaginations fill in the gaps. Anyway, nothing more to say. This is Movie Mavericks signing out.